Hello. Welcome back. It's a bold narrative choice in an age in which dramas tend to prioritize suspense at the expense of just about every other facet of storytelling. We now know that the Anjin survives the clash between Toranaga and Ishido, and that he further defies the odds by making his way back to his homeland. Blackthorne has been a comedic figure throughout much of Shogun's life, a fact that makes his obvious heartbreak over Mariko's death all the more affecting. Mariko's motives were complex, of course. For years, she'd harbored a desire to take her own life. But in Osaka, she endeavored to advance her lord's agenda via her suffering at Ishido's hands. Mariko's loyalty to Toranaga extended to her final seconds on Earth, when she verbally condemned Ishido before dying for her lord. As she'd hoped and expected, the other members of the Council of Regents are outraged by what happened to her. Not only that, Mariko's kamikaze mission has provided Toranaga with the excuse he needs to retract his surrender and prepare for war. Ishido wants his colleagues on the Council of Regents to believe that Toranaga ordered the attack in an effort to sow division. He also reminds the room that Mariko hails from the family that murdered Ochiba's father. In short, Ishido is a political archetype that we still see far too much of 424 years later. The shady operative who endeavors to keep the populace divided in order to distract from his nefarious machinations. The other regents believe that he didn't order the attack, but Ochiba wants her friend Mariko to receive a proper burial. Then Ishido will get the war for which he's been spoiling for months. Throughout this series, Yabushige's depths have been revealed in ways that demonstrated both the writer's knack for making room for character development in a largely plot-driven show and the wry subtlety of Tadanobu Asano's performance. The brilliant creative team responsible for adapting James Clavell's novel clearly shares the author's belief that it's the storyteller's job to create an emotional connection between an audience and their heroes. And so, at the precipice of a civil war that's likely to change the course of Japanese history, we downshift from macro to micro for successive scenes that subtly highlight the ways in which Toranaga and Blackthorne have been reunited by their grief for Mariko. Of course, Blackthorne's grief is tinted with suppressed fury over the fact that the woman he loves was made to sacrifice for Toranaga's cause. A scene in which he attempts to make sense of it all while marching to Toranaga's galley brilliantly encapsulates the moral complexities that have made Shogun such compelling viewing these past months. The ensuing conversation in which Alvido attempts to reconcile with Blackthorne initially feels like an odd choice. In addition to being a massive jerk, the priest was an ancillary character to whom we felt little emotional attachment. He reveals, however, that he initially planned to have Blackthorne killed until Lady Mariko talked him out of it. Once again, we're reminded of Mariko's centrality to this story. It's fitting that her significance to every single storyline in Shogun is not always apparent at first glance. She operated in clandestine ways, and while it often seemed that she was being manipulated by powerful men, more often than not, she was the one pulling the strings. Now, we have a finale that's as much about Mariko's legacy as it is about the war between Toranaga and Ishido. When Ochiba tells her son about the necessity of finishing Mariko's poem, she's talking about far more than penning a few more lines about leafless branches. Unfortunately, Blackthorne's epic won't be concluding in the manner he'd hoped. Fresh on the heels of Mariko's death, the Anjin suffers another heartbreak upon learning that enemies Christians he's told have sunken his beloved ship. The ever inscrutable Toranaga, who's also grieving